Welcome to a year in the life of electronic publishing. My name is Jason Reynolds. Some of you know me from McNeese State or Southern State. Others might know me from Fiction Weekly or Escape into Life. But today I find myself in an enviable position. I get to introduce the editors of 4 of today's most innovative electronic publications. The Cortland Review, Carve, Cellpoems, and Escape into Life. Before we begin, I want to briefly note exactly how new media is and the influence it's had on literary publishing. I had lunch with a friend yesterday from high school who reminded me that we got new computers 20 years ago in high school, Apples for the students, and nobody wanted anything to do with them. No one was interested in the internet or anything at all. Even our librarians and teachers thought that the primary purpose was that they were quieter than typewriters and had better memory than word processors. So they thought this was really the future of typing and word processing. I'm going to say things have changed. Particularly over the last 15 years. Google, MySpace, Facebook, and Twitter were all founded within the last 15 years. During the same time period, the number of cell phone subscriptions has jumped from 38 million to 322 million. One staggering stat I just read in the Wall Street Journal is that in addition to 4 hours of TV, the average American now spends 2.5 hours on the internet a day. And over an hour of that is spent on a mobile device, which is kind of shocking. This is needless to say had an effect on literary publishing across the board. In addition to the hundreds of electronic journals listed on websites like Poets and Writers, and the new pages, every writer's resource offers a big list. It's a web page that has links to the home pages of roughly 2,000 literary publications. It's kind of shocking when you think about it. If you go back 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, there were only maybe 2 or 3 journals. Cortland Review is celebrating their 15th anniversary, Barcelona Review, but that was really about it. Now today, if you want to start a journal, it only takes a fraction of the time and almost no cost. You know, if you want to, you can go online and distribute text, audio, and video basically for free if you can put the time into it. That doesn't mean it will be good, right? It just means that you can do that. And it's no longer if you build it, they will come. It used to be that if you started a journal, people would just submit. But we've reached a saturation point, really, where now there's more publications dedicated to quality literature than there is quality literature to fill those pages. And that presents a challenge, especially for electronic journals, which are still considered second-rate by a surprising number of people. So now more than ever, it's hard to stand out in the crowd and not only entice good readers, but also great writers. So we put this panel together in an effort to see a few journals that have succeeded in that regard. So I just said the Cortland Review is celebrating their 15th anniversary. They broke ground not only as one of the earliest electronic publications, but also with audio and video. We have Carve, it's been around since 2000. So they're celebrating their 12th anniversary this year. They're consistently provide quality fiction and great contest fiction, which is a hard thing to pull off. Cellpoems, who I'm kind of jealous of. I wish I'd thought of that idea, texting poems right to you. And Escape into Life, which is actually an arts journal, but has branched out into literature over the last couple of years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the first journal, which would be Carve.
All right, thank you. How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Good. All right, just give me 1 second to switch over here. All right, so before I begin, I just want to, out of curiosity, how many of you have heard of Carve magazine before walking in here today? All right, not bad, not bad. All right. Okay, well, Carve magazine. What is Carve magazine? It's a quarterly online publication. We publish short stories and photography. We feature a new cover photo every issue. It's named in honor of Raymond Carver. And because of that, we try to take a minimalist approach to the website and to the stories that we publish. So let's just take a look. If you haven't seen Carve already, this is our website. You can see here we've got our cover photo there. Basically what I do is I design each issue around the cover photo. So I kind of pull the colors from that, the different color scheme. We feature the full text of each story on our website. So there's no subscription, there's no hassle, it's all free, it's all there for you to see. Just a second here, it'll show you our past issues, and you'll kind of see how every issue changes and the different color schemes that we use and the different photos we have. So when you're in that issue, even though it's online, you still kind of feel like you're in a magazine and you're getting something different each issue that we put out. And I really recommend this story, actually. The White Rabbit is our first place prize winner in our 2010 Carver contest. So what makes us different? Like I said, every issue the site changes and we have the full text of the story. We really work to promote the contributors that we publish. We want them to go on and have successful careers. We want them to get their name out there. That's part of why we publish the entire text of the story online. We don't want to, create a subscription, create a wall between readers and the writers that they're looking for. We try to give feedback whenever possible on the submissions that we get. We get 1,200 submissions a year, not counting the contest. So obviously we can't respond to every submission, but we do try to. Nobody likes to submit into an abyss. We're writers too. We know what it's like to send your work out there and it's just like you get nothing back. So whenever we get stories that we feel we're strong or getting there in a draft form, or maybe it just wasn't right for our magazine, we try to give them that feedback and let them know what's going on. We also partner with literary agencies to get them to represent our contributors, or maybe look into other works that they've published so that they have a novel that they're working on. These agencies are interested in looking at them. So we've worked with them, and now as part of our prize package for the annual Carve contest, they offer their services and they look at the winners, they read their stories, and if interested, they get in touch with them then. All right, so just a real quick history. As he said, started in 2000. Melvin Stern was actually the founder and creator of Carve magazine, and he was the editor from 2000 to 2006. And he published the issue 6 times a year, and he would publish almost 12 stories an issue, 12 to 15 stories an issue. Here's a snapshot of what it looked like back in 2001. So as you can see, back in the early days of the internet, it wasn't really so much on style. You've got the font that's really hard to read and a lot of white space, and but there was a lot of content. And he had a lot of stories that he offered every issue. Looking ahead now to 2011, this is what the site looks like, and we're a little more selective with content. We now only publish 4 times a year, and we publish anywhere from 2 to 5 stories per issue. And the reason I kind of decided to do that was, as the internet grew and changed, we wanted to make Carve a destination magazine and not just something that you browse through and click around and try to find a story you like. We wanted to offer stories that you knew would be good, and that even if you didn't always love them, you could at least admire them for the writing and for the quality of fiction that they were. So fewer stories meant a guaranteed experience, and you knew what you were getting every time you came to Carve magazine. So I took over in 2007, been running it for the past 5 years. From 2009 to 2010, we had kind of a year-long hiatus. And what happened was I just became inundated with submissions. I was so surprised how well the magazine took off, even after I took over. And the contest became more successful than I anticipated. And it was a one-man show. I was doing everything: marketing, reading stories. I had a couple of volunteer readers that maybe read like 20 to 30 stories a month. But it was all me. And I was just like drowning under the weight of submissions. So that's when my team came to the rescue. After a year, I was like, I really don't want to let this go. I really want to keep going with this magazine. It's important to me. So I recruited an awesome team that I work with now, and the managing editor is Kristen Van Naaman. She's actually here at AWP. If you see her around, say hello. And she has been phenomenal. I can't stress enough how awesome she's been in recruiting readers, managing our submissions, and just keeping in touch with me, letting me know what's going on. So she's helped recruit a lot of the readers here that we've pictured, and we have a huge staff of readers, and they're all mostly volunteer. The only time we are able to pay them is really with the contest, and that's because we're under a tight deadline and we need them to read a lot of stories in a short amount of time, so that's when we pay them. Otherwise, year-round, they're volunteer, and they've been awesome, and a lot of them come from the schools that we went to, UT Dallas and other organizations in the area. And then we've actually started recruiting former contributors and have them become readers. So the ones not pictured, Sean and Jillian, they are actually former contributors and have been published in the magazine, and now they're on our reading staff. And a couple of our readers, I think, are actually here. I know Rita's here. She wants to stand up and wave. And Jillian, I think, is supposed to be here. She's here. Hi. All right, so Jillian, actually, her short story has been optioned, and she's now working on a screenplay draft of her short story that's going to be produced into a short film, so we're very excited about that. So about our vision, what is Carve magazine doing? What are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to take over anything that's online or technology. We want to be on your computer, we want to be on your Kindle, we want to be on your iPad, iDevice, whatever we can. We started out as an online magazine, and we want to keep that up, and iPads, iPhones are the new online, and that's where we intend to go as well. We want to earn some respect. We want to, get our name in pushcart. We're an online publication. We publish quality fiction, and we're really looking forward to the day that we appear alongside some of these print publications that have been kind of hogging the prizes for so long. We want to make our contributors rich. We want to pay them. We do actually pay our contributors every issue. It's not very much right now. It's about $20 to $50 per story per issue. And we continue to do that. And as the magazine grows, we continue to increase that. We want to be a good book. We put out a paperback anthology of all the stories we published the previous year. I have a couple copies here if you want to take a look at them. So we are actually going back to the print version, and we're trying to go across all the mediums that we can and get the fiction out there. We want to stay true to our roots. Raymond Carver was such a great short story writer. We really admire his work. We go back and we reread it a lot and kind of use that as inspiration. And we like his minimalist approach, but if you really know him, his later works really took on a more detailed, long-form style. And so we're aware of that kind of contrast, and we take that into consideration when we look at the stories we want to publish. And we want to blow up your Facebook and Twitter feeds. We want to be everywhere. So you can read our mission here real quick. I'm not going to read it out loud, but basically it has 3 parts, kind of what I covered. We're looking to publish quality literary fiction. We want to get the writers' names out there. We don't want to just be a literary magazine that you read and you put down. We want to see the contributors go on, get published elsewhere, get book deals, and that kind of thing. We take special pride in our editorial process, trying to provide feedback, trying to provide you know, words of encouragement if it just wasn't for us. And of course, we want to honor Raymond Carver and his legacy. So, what's worked for us? What has been successful for us in the past year? The staff developments, of course. Implementing monthly meetings with Kristen, my managing editor, has been awesome. It's improved our efficiency, been able to delegate things, improve our communication. We actually finally found a good model for our readers that worked. We tried so many different things. We tried, you know, giving them a batch of stories every month, and you know, they always put it off to the last minute, like I would too. And so we actually got a system now where the readers are taking on new stories every week, and they tell us how many they want. It could be 1 story, it could be 10 stories, it's up to them. And if they don't get in a week, no problem, they can have another week. It's not a big deal. But this has been really successful because it's shortening our response time to our submitters, and they're getting their work back faster. We're actually staying under our promised time of 4 months most of the time. And the readers are able to provide more feedback. When they just have a couple of stories to read each week, they're much more likely to you know, leave notes and comments on the story, and we can pass that on to the writer. All right, submittable submishmash. How many of you guys are familiar with this? All right, they're awesome, aren't they? They have just exploded in the past couple years, and they are great because they streamline the reading process. They streamline the process for everyone involved, for submitters and for editors, and we're able to communicate with our submitters more easily, and they're able to know where their story is in the process, if it's even, you know, been read or anything. So it's great, and it's great for us. We can leave notes, we can see who's read it, we can see what they thought of it. We have a voting system enabled, so it's awesome. If you don't know it, check it out. Submishmash.com. We've introduced a new contest this year. It's a themed issue once a year in our spring issue. And we let you know what the theme is before. We're just about to publish the 2012 one, which was an LGBT theme. We just announced the winners yesterday, and we're really looking forward to publishing that issue on March 15th. And the theme for next year, if you're interested, is natural disaster. So feel free to check out our website and learn more about that contest that we're doing for next spring. We've been partnering with the literary agencies. As I said, we've got 3 literary agencies that read the stories as part of the prize package, and we've added another one for 2012, so we're really proud of that and getting that done in the last year. We're publishing some of the best fiction I think is out there. It's just, especially with adding the new readers, the diversity of our stories has really improved, and I'm so glad I'm not the only one picking the stories that are out there, and they don't all sound the same to me now. So I really like the selection that we have, and I just want to highlight our fall 2011 issues, our Raymond Carver contest issue, and we had 5 prize winners. The guest judge chose 3 of them. Kristen and I chose 2 editor's choice, and we had 4 left over that we just could not bear to go unpublished. We just felt like they needed to be published, and they needed to be published in Carve. So we ended up publishing all 9 of them, which we've never done, and I really think it's one of our best issues out there, so please feel free to read that. We finally got the anthologies done. I did one in 2007 after that year was over, and then with the hiatus, it sort of just fell off the radar for me. But I finally got back up to speed with that, and all of the anthologies are now available in paperback or for the Kindle and iBooks. Like I said, I want to take over all your technology. So that's what's been successful. What hasn't been successful, I wouldn't put failure up there. We're non-success, you know, PC culture here. So what didn't work for us this year? Well, we don't have an iPhone or iPad app. There's some issues with this content and cost-wise. Content issue, we're just a quarterly online magazine. We're small, we're simple. You know, is it really worth putting out a $3,000 iPad app just so you can read the stories that you can already read online? Cost issues, they're expensive. As I said, $3,000. I went to a panel yesterday. He told us anywhere from $3,000 to $12,000. We don't have that kind of budget. All right, so the Post Secret app, how many of you guys are familiar with that? Have you heard of it? Okay, a few of you. It's basically this app, if you know the Post Secret website, he puts postcards that people send in to him of people's secrets, so he created an app where you can take a picture and put your secret on there and upload it to their app. Well, it cost $20,000 to make, and it was very successful for like a month, and then people started putting, not so good pictures on there, so they ended up shutting it down. And that's just like, do you really want to mess with that? Do we really want to, spend that much money and then the investment doesn't give a good return? Anthology sales. People still like books, but are they going to buy them? And the fiction's online, it's available to read there. So, we know some people really prefer that print publication. They want to feel the book in their hands. So we're still putting the anthology out there, but as a matter of selling them, that's been more difficult. Anthology sales make up less than 2% of our revenue. It's a very small stream. Advertising is expensive as well. It's difficult to know your audience when you're online. We can't really, knock on your door or get to know you in any kind of personable way. A lot of people are very secretive and guarded about their privacy, so the only thing we request if you subscribe to us is email address. You don't have to submit anything else. Anyone want to do graphic design for free? Because I could use a free graphic designer, that'd be great. Staffing's expensive. I'm able to actually provide some compensation for Kristen now as our managing editor. She's really the only one making money off the magazine right now. But we're planning to grow and do some things, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And as I've said before, everything is expensive, and everyone's on something, so we want to get on there too, but it's just a very expensive market right now. Carve is not my full-time job, unfortunately. I wish it were, and the reason it's not is because the revenue streams are just not there. 80% of our revenue comes from the contest, and a lot of that goes towards paying the writers that we publish and just maintaining the site and upkeep costs and that kind of thing. We do charge a very small fee for online submissions. If you don't want to pay, you don't have to. You can still send it through snail mail. But we do just charge a small little fee for using Submishmash, and that brings in about 18%, and then the other 2% or less is anthology sales. So what's our goal for 2012? Well, we want to do more anthology sales. Buy an anthology today. I can sell it to you today. We want to do merchandise. Someone here has got a t-shirt, Escape into Life. I'm kind of jealous of that. And we want to do bigger prizes, because it seems like when the prizes are bigger, people are more willing to enter. It's kind of an interesting conundrum. So those are kind of our goals for the future. And we really want to look at, changing the literary magazine and what is it? Can it become a brand? Apple is the most successful brand of all time at this point, and we're not going to be Apple, but we could, we want to be different. We want to make our mark. We want to offer something more than just fiction, and we want it to be something that people, feel connected with, and we want to get to know our readers better. So some things worth looking at: print issues with more content, maybe. Make it kind of from writers for writers. A lot of us on the reading committee and staff were writers too. We know what you're going through. We want to share our experiences with it as well. And more multimedia experience on your iDevice, and maybe turning into a small press or publishing company and actually publishing novels. And being kind of a one-stop shop with editor, agent, publisher all in one. Amazon's kind of going that route, and it's a big controversy, but it looks like it's going to work. So we want to stay on top of that. So for the future of publishing, we use print-on-demand services for our anthology, which is basically where until it's ordered, it's not printed. And this ensures no overstock, it's cost-effective, it's easy on the environment, but distribution can be difficult. And brick-and-mortar stores, they don't want to purchase these anthologies because they can't, or these books, because they can't return them. Once they've been printed, the distributor gets rid of them, and they're not coming back. So it's a little difficult to get those in the stores. I really believe, just as on a kind of different note, with the printed book versus ebook, I think they're going to find a way to coexist in harmony. I think right now this war that's going on between the ebook and printed book is a little silly. They both offer different experiences, and I think as time goes on, the printed book is going to become a different kind of experience than it has been before, and it can be more premium. The way people are publishing the books, like the actual physical books, I've read articles about doing like gold flaked paper and this kind of thing, so that it's really something you treasure and enjoy. So make love, not war, when it comes to publishing is what I want to leave you with. So thank you so much for your time. I hope I didn't go over. That's all about Carve.
Thanks, Matt. That was awesome. Cellpoems is up next.
Hi, I'm Eric Smith. I'm one of the editors for Cellpoems, a text message-based literary journal. And so I just want to give you a little background too of where we started. The idea was born on a, well, I guess you could call it a front porch, but it was only provisionally a front porch in Gainesville, Florida, to reduce poetry to its most essential again. And the place that seemed most doable was in the thing we spent, as Jason said, an hour and a half a day doing, sending text messages. And so the idea was, can we get good work and good poems to readers who are interested in poetry in such a small space? And from very, yeah, isn't it good? Yeah. Some very problematic beginnings, including starting with a BlackBerry on which we could send to the 45 subscribers, which included most of our families. We've gone to a much more robust system, a beautiful new website, and we're sending out poems once a week to 764 subscribers every week. So what I really want to talk to you today was to talk about what we've been doing for the past year. Here on the main screen, you'll see our most recent publication on the left. On the right, we also have sections from our somewhat defunct text message length reviews of single poems. And then every 15 seconds or so, you get a new poem and a new beautiful pastel background to sort of mimic on the web experience what it's like to be interrupted by a text message poem. So some of the things that we've had success with in the past year, I wanted to talk about those. In 2011, we doubled everywhere in subscribers, in followers, in likers, I guess is what they would be called on Facebook. Is that proper? I'm not sure. It sounds kind of skeezy, actually. But anyway, those people who follow us on Facebook. We've doubled, which is great. And the reason for that is we had a lot of good attention drawn to the project. Not only do we have great poets submitting great work, we also received a lot of recognition from the National Book Foundation, awarded us an Innovations in Reading grant in 2010, and featured us on their website and with their National Book Award for Poetry Project. We also were featured in Poets and Writers and on the New Yorker's Book Bench blog. And that drew a lot of attention, which was great for us. And so we've been hard at trying to keep those new subscribers and followers interested since. And also early on last year, actually it was at AWP in Washington, D.C. last year, where we made the switch from the BlackBerry that, well, it was the new BlackBerry because the other one ended up at the bottom of a pool, and that's why Cellpoems went on a hiatus for a few months in late 2010. But made the switch to a more robust system. We moved to a dedicated 3G modem and that USB modem and a piece of software called Frontline SMS, which is used by nonprofits everywhere in the world to triangulate and organize all kinds of great activities. So we took that and we use it to send little poems. We've also crawled out of the enormous hole debt-wise that we dug ourselves into the first 2 years. Which was great. Thanks to the Innovations in Reading grant, we were able to not only pay off a lot of the credit cards that were used to launch Cellpoems, but also were able to pay a design firm in New York, Fogelson and Lubliner, to give them a little plug. You should totally ask them to do your website. And we paid them to create this fantastic website, which is supposed to, again, mimic this sort of analog minimalist idea of a text message poem. That said, in the last year, the three things that helped us the most were also the three things that just punished us. With the expansion, with the increase in subscribers and followers, we saw a lot of attention drawn at the magazine, but we had a problem. And that is that the idea behind the magazine was once a week, your busy electronic life would be interrupted by a poem. 140 characters of something beautiful in language, and then you could go back to, watching Jersey Shore and reading other good poems and doing whatever it is you have fun with on your iDevices. The problem is with a magazine that is built around social media, when your points of interaction are only once a week, It's sort of like a 7-day ice age as far as the world is concerned. People forget about you if you don't tweet 7 times a day. We don't have believers in Cellpoems. We send you 1 poem a week. That's what we do, is that one brief interruption, which is fantastic, we think, but it also means that there is some attrition because we're not constantly generating content. That would be great if we could send you a poem a day. We think you'd get tired of it. But it does create some problems when you're not constantly interacting with your subscribers and readers on a daily basis. We've also hit a hurdle technologically. The software we're using is great, Frontline SMS. If you're interested at all in setting up a network of being able to communicate with a lot of people very quickly via text message, I highly recommend Frontline SMS. It's free. It's entirely user supported from the community, and it does work most of the time. The only downside is that from there, your options to reach a lot of people via text message become exponentially more expensive very quickly. There are pieces of software out there that have better support and more robust options and are more likely to get the messages to the recipients in a non-corrupted way, but they're very, very expensive. And we also, early on, thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a short code, one of those dedicated short codes like This American Life or the Obama campaign? Wouldn't that be fantastic if we just had this little number and we could always be talking to people? And then we found out those things cost, I think $8,000 or $10,000 a month for a dedicated short code. You can do a shared short code, which is much cheaper, but even for us, it was prohibitively expensive. And I may have the numbers wrong, but it is in the thousands a year. It's not cheap. So that's actually also been our last downfall, is the expense of the magazine. Cellpoems runs on a shoestring. We pay for it. We pay for the data plan for the cell modem, and we pay for the web hosting. But the good thing is that's it. That's your barrier for entry to have a magazine. If you have a screen that connects to the internet somewhere, you can be an editor, you can be a publisher, you can have readers, you can have this great relationship with literature and the people who love literature. The thing we crunched the numbers on this, and this is in no way to beg for money, though if y'all want to pass a hat, I think we'd all love to split it. But just to sort of let you know, the barrier for entry for this kind of enterprise is so low. If all of our subscribers donated $1 a year, not a month or a week, but a year, we could pay all of our costs and pay our writers a token amount for their poems. If all of our subscribers donated $5 a year, we could pay all of our costs and pay all of our authors 52 poems a year, almost $50 per poem, which isn't bad for 140 characters, right? And that's, the thing is, you have none of the real costs. You don't have to worry about raw materials increasing. You don't have to worry about shipping prices going up. You don't have to worry about storage for these things. It's just here. It's just on your phone. It just takes up a few bytes. And that's great. But it also means that sort of what Matt's talking about is how seriously can you take something, especially when it's a poem that comes from a text message. And so that's our real struggle this year, is figuring out how to make people realize this is something worth investing in. But we're also looking forward. We have a lot of things we're going to be working on in 2012 beyond the economics of Cellpoems. We're committed to the idea that good poems can be found in unlikely places, including that little 3-inch screen you carry around. And we're really excited to be a part of this fantastic community of editors and journals and readers and writers trying to make this work and doing it fantastically. But we're also trying to take Cellpoems in places we weren't really considering we could take it. We have one of our editors, Sarah Rapana, who's serving in the Peace Corps now in China and teaching ESL classes. And every week she has her students come to the website, read the poems, and then translate the poems and text them to their friends in Chinese. We also, one of our other editors, Lee Pincus, is doing the same thing with her students in the charter schools in Brooklyn. And we have friends and colleagues across the nation in, let me make sure I get the list, in Georgia, West Virginia, New Jersey, and Colorado, who are all using Cellpoems in the classroom to show students that there isn't barrier to this thing that we do as writers. It's not this rarefied, impossible enterprise. It's something that shows up on your phone once a week, and it's something you can be a part of. So, with that said, that's really all I have to say. We're really excited about this year, and if you want to be a part of it, cellpoems.org is the website. You can follow us on Twitter, just @Cellpoems, all one word, and you can like us on Facebook, however you do that. But you can just type in Cellpoems and we'll be there. And we're also sort of live tweeting AWP and the things that actually I'm doing. So check us out. We'll keep you updated on the fun stuff we have going on. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. We have Guy from Cortland Review next.
Hi, thank you, Jason. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
I just got in last night, but I heard there was a very big dance party last night that some of you enjoyed. I hope it was fun. I'm sorry I missed it. So, I'm Guy Shahar. I'm the editor emeritus of the Cortland Review. How do I get this thing working? Please stand by for technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So there you go. Online publishing and technology. These are the kind of problems that we face every day.
Correct, too. Maybe now? No?
Okay.
Nice work.
The Cortland Review. So this is our new website, which we're very proud of. We just launched in the beginning of the year. How many of you, by show of hands, have heard of the Cortland Review? Okay, so a good amount of you. That's great. So this is our website today. The magazine was founded in 1997. It didn't quite look like this. Okay, so that looks about accurate. Yeah, I guess we've come a long way. So as I mentioned, the Cortland Review was founded in 1997. We had 2 test issues, issue 1 and issue 2. Issue 1, I think, had 3 poets and got 3 hits. I bet you can guess who those were. And then issue 2, I think, had 5 poets and got like 7 hits. And now we get anywhere between 30,000 to 100,000 visitors per month, usually more during National Poetry Month in April. So when we started out, our goal was to publish the best poetry that we could find. You know, we were fans of poetry. I was a poet myself at the time. I think I published my first poem and I got paid $4. And I said to myself, yeah, this poetry thing's not going to work out. So, you know, we wanted to publish the best poetry that we could, but in 1997, no real poet would give you their work to publish on the internet. I mean, they wouldn't even spit on you if you told them that you had a poetry magazine and your hair was on fire. So what we did was, you know, we wanted to make poetry a more personal experience. You know, all the magazines are about reading the text, reading the text, reading the text. So I actually was classically trained as a musician, and I had an audio engineering degree. And I said, well, you know, there was a new technology called real audio. You can see it's still here. There was a new technology called real audio, and I said, well, why don't we record the poets, have them read the poems in their own voice, and have that along with the text. Because I was always very captivated by, you know, hearing a poet speak. I always felt like that conveys a lot more about the poem. You get to see the person, you get to hear the tone of their voice, where they take a pause. You know, it kind of helps you interpret the poem in a completely different way. So, and part of the way that I actually learned that is because of my audio engineering degree, I was working with the Academy of American Poets because they had a bunch of old recordings from like the 50s and 60s that were like on old cassette tape, and they needed to transfer them to CD or eventually to their website, and I was doing a lot of the audio restoration for them. So I was listening to, you know, some of our best poets. You know, there's one 1965 recording of Charles Simic reading at this great hall, and you know, it really gives you a special connection to the poet to hear them speak. So I said, why don't we bring that to this? And I hauled around my little Marantz recorder and went around and recorded as many poets as I could find in New York, which is where I'm from, and we put them up, and we got some recordings from poets that lived further away, and put them up, and it was a huge hit, and people liked it. But still, no real poet really wanted to publish on the internet. The only people publishing on the internet at that time were maybe college students and lots of vanity presses. People that would send you, you know, spam or advertising and say, if you pay us $400, we're going to publish your poetry on the internet. Yeah. So what we did was we reached out to the poets that we really liked. And we wrote to them personally, and we said, look, you know, I wrote to Charles Simic because I love Charles Simic. And I said, hey, Charlie, you don't know me, but I'm a big fan. I love your work. I'm starting a new magazine on the internet. It's going to have audio, which is a new thing. You know, I would really appreciate if you sent me a few poems. And a lot of these, you know, letters went unanswered at first. And, but Charlie wrote back and said, sure. So there you go. And then once we started to publish more real poets on the internet, more poets were much more likely to join. So then I'd write to somebody else and say, hey, you know, we've published the work of Charles Simic. And I'm like, oh, okay, well then I'll give you a poem too. Why not? And it sort of grew and grew from that point on. And what we started to do is we started to put a star next to each poet, where the Courtland Review was responsible for bringing them online for the first time. So I'm going to go back to the design, and eventually became the journal that you see today. And this year we're actually celebrating our 15th anniversary, which is great. So audio was a really great addition to the journal, and then in 2009 we started a new series called Poets in Person, which is a video series that we do. And I'm going to see if I can play one of those for you. All right, I don't know if the audio is hooked up, so I'm kind of do this ghetto thing where I put the microphone to the technology. This is how the Cortland Review started, so.
Hello, I'm C.K. Williams. Hello, everybody. Here comes Jesse with the bread. And that's Owen, the oldest grandson. And this is Turner, the youngest grandson.
This girl, Jen. Yeah. Janine, she thinks we look alike.
Oh, great.
That's flattering. I think it's the eyes. I think that bead is more like this part and you're that part.
Oh. So now we'll go upstairs. My cage where I write and don't write and try to write. And very rarely don't try to write. This is the laboratory and the gym and sometimes the torture chamber. The revisions that took me hours and hours to do once now take me minutes and minutes. So I end up with a lot of free time on my hands. My beginning in poetry was a great shock. I didn't expect it, nobody else expected it. I was in Europe in a hotel room and reading T.S. Eliot of all people, and I just started reciting poetry. About 10 years ago I was giving a reading at a conference an old college friend of mine organized. And he introduced me, and then I read. After the reading, he gave a little sort of appreciation. And one of the things he said was about how much time I'd spent alone. All that time alone, he said. And it was the strangest thing because up until then I had never thought of myself as being alone, which I am, all morning certainly, and a good part of the afternoon. I guess because I'm with my poetry and with my poets who are all around me. And I think it's a tradition in, well, certain cultures and in certain arts that when you get old, you move out and you go out of civilization. In India, you move to the forest and build a little hut and live in it. I wouldn't want to go that far. I need Catherine for my solitude as well. My family, of course, is very, very important to me, and I really love this turbulence of being surrounded by kids and dogs and adults who I love. Thanks for spending the day with me and my family, and I hope I see you in the Cortland Review. Jesse? Yeah? Turner wants to know how long it's going to take his pants to...
5 more minutes.
So CK was a great sport. But when you see a piece like this, you can kind of understand, you know, how we really want to bring our audience really close to the poet, to really understand who they are beyond just the words on the page. And so far, you know, the poets that we've been working with have been very open to that, and it's, you know, created a really wonderful, wonderful experience, I think. So to go back to this, so the Cortland Review is run by an all-volunteer staff. I'm listed as the founder and editor emeritus, and I think some of our staff are actually in the audience. Who is here? I know Ginger is here, and actually you guys should all applaud for Ginger. Would you stand up, please, Ginger? Ginger is the editor of the journal. You know, I'm a filmmaker now, and I moved on to making filmmaking, so I'm not involved in the day-to-day of the Cortland Review. But Ginger runs it day in and day out. She picks the poems. She, you know, sets all this together. She's the one who calls me and says, you know, 2 months from now, you're going to have to film C.K. Williams. Set it up. So she's the boss. Is there anybody else from our staff here at the reading? If you are, please stand up and be acknowledged. Yeah, the entire staff is volunteer, which is really wonderful. We have staff all over the world, and they communicate and work together online using our online office, which we call Inertia. And it's where we read submissions, it's where we comment on submissions, where we share and exchange information with all of our volunteers and contributors from around the world. And you can see there's quite a bunch of volunteers here. So that's pretty much it. Oh, I do want to try and play this greeting for you. One of the other things that we did when we wanted to make the poetry a little more personal and accessible is, particularly with the audio, we started doing these audio greetings, where we said to poets, all right, instead of just reading your poem, why don't you welcome people to the Cortland Review in your own unique, special way? And it just gives, you know, them an opportunity to improvise and gives you a better glimpse into who they are. So I'm going to play Stephen Dobbins, who's this month's audio host.
This is Stephen Dobbins, and welcome to the Cortland Review, where you will find, besides poetry and good ideas, you will also find jelly beans. The jelly beans are at the bottom of every page. Look for the red ones. Thank you.
So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So there you have it. That's the Cortland Review, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thanks, Guy. We have Matt from Escape and Life.
Well, I'm just blessed to be on a panel with these three journals. We are the younger brother of all these things. Our fiction side now is just about a year old, not even a year old, I think. Let me pull this stuff up for a second. Hold on. You can also tell by my PowerPoint presentation that I am not Carve. Oh, that's the button. Bam! All right, so escaping to life. Okay, let's see here. First and foremost, I want to thank Mandy Al-Assad and Ashley Divick for the opportunity to join the Escaping to Life team. It was an interesting chain of events as we transitioned and updated the literature and particularly the fiction side of the website. Really, my part of the presentation is going to be concerned with networking and the vast amount of doors it opens in the online publishing world. My story starts at the University of Tennessee, where I studied creative writing under Michael Knight. This is where I met Ashley as well as another number of other talented writers. From there, due to Michael Knight's influence, I went to McNeese State University, where I studied under Neil Connolly, and that's where I met Jason Reynolds right here, as well as even more talented writers such as Antonia Nelson, Ron Carlson, and Robert Owen Butler. Jason and I started getting our feet wet with a little site called Fiction Weekly that had a good 2-year run until it became too much for the two of us to handle alone. When Escaping to Life was looking to revamp the literature side of their website, Ashley, who I kept in touch with from my UT days, remarked on our work on Fiction Weekly and brought us in to handle Escaping to Life. I give all this background because I think it's important to see the genesis of how things came together. How it took a group of like-minded individuals that not only respected each other's work, but enjoyed each other's company enough to work together to create something more than the sum of its parts. Running an internet journal is no easy task, and often it's thankless and without pay, right? When we took over Escaping to Life, we had to restructure and create almost a whole new entity for the site. The poetry is being handled successfully by Miss Kathleen Kirk. Kathleen, are you here today? Hi, Kathleen, how's it going? Nice to finally meet you. Yeah, we're from all over the place too. But the fiction side of the site was a little lacking. Up until that point, previously published stories and other poor quality pieces were being put on the webzine, and no one took notice because there were no expectations. Escaping to Life was an arts journal, and it just happened to contain some literature, well, so be it. So our biggest task was changing the entire culture that surrounded both the website and the readership's expectations. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing we did was we began to compile email addresses of friends we knew that read, writers that we knew, and then one by one, every creative writing instructor or an instructor with a creative writing background in all 50 states. If you teach at a college and you got an email from me and you didn't want it, I apologize, but I found you. This initial step, while often taking 4 to 5 hours to complete a state, I mean, I'm serious. New York, you don't even know how many colleges New York has. Woo! But then you got like Alaska, and then it's like, that's a fast one. But anyways, all this was necessary as well as integral to our ability to be successful. The second thing that happened that's been commented on was the emergence of Submishmash as an online submission management platform. Having Submishmash allowed us to streamline so many things we had issues with early on with Fiction Weekly and made the whole platform more convenient to work from. The first story that we published on Escaping to Life was from an author that enjoyed the stories that we published at Fiction Weekly and was part of our mailing list. When we merged our mailing list, his submission was something that really helped us to get the ball rolling. This, as well as a couple solid submissions from writer friends that we made, helped us to survive the initial startup period as we generated a dedicated readership for the site. Perhaps our biggest triumph in the past year was getting Robert Owen Butler to judge our first fiction contest. This again was due to networking. I don't know what a prominent writer such as Mr. Butler charges to do a contest, and I still don't know, because this was my second magic trick that I'm only telling this audience. While having my foot in the door from sharing ties with Mr. Butler, I knew that most authors of his caliber usually charge at least $1,000 to make an appearance to do a reading. So I was pretty sure to judge a contest would be a pretty penny as well. So instead of talking money, when I emailed Mr. Butler with the idea, I gave him the idea of the barter system. And as fate would have it, he agreed. So we got him really cheap. The contest, having never done a contest before, was a massive undertaking and probably one of the most stressful things I've ever been involved with. First off, by getting a Pulitzer Prize winner as our ultimate judge, we set the bar high as to the caliber of stories that we hope to receive. Our biggest fear during the first 2 months of the contest was not getting enough quality submissions to reach 5 finalists, and that when Robert got our packet, he would think that we didn't know what we were doing. It became apparent that simple word of mouth and email lists weren't going to be enough with 1 month into the contest when we'd only generated 60 submissions, and many of those were pretty scary. So we researched a number of ways to advertise, from poets and writers to new pages, and we found for the price, new pages were the only one that fit our non-existent budget. But man, that was the best $55 we've ever made, or we've ever spent, I mean, as we watched our submissions quadruple over the final month of the contest, as well as the overall quality improve. The only issue now is that we had over 250 stories to read for the contest, and just the 2 of us to do it. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm the slowest reader on the planet. And on top of that, I'm reading with the fear of not wanting to miss the next great story because I couldn't get into the first 2 pages. There are certainly more efficient ways as an editor to read a large stack of stories and get them off your desk, but this has been a technique that Jason and I have been utilizing since our Fiction Weekly days, the belief that even if a story wasn't perfect, if it was close, we could help out the writer and actually edit in order to create the greater work of fiction. So we had 250 stories between us, and we're 2 guys whose full-time jobs are college English instructors, where we have to read countless essays already during our free time. So this was no easy task. And so for the first time, Jason and I reached out to other trusted friends who might be able to bear the load. Finding quality submission readers is, like everything else in the electronic publishing world, no easy task. I'm actually jealous of some of y'all's, how many people do you have reading?
10 to 15.
Jeez, it's just not fair. Most of the people we reached out to over the course of our experience were all gung-ho about reading at the beginning, and then about 5 to 10 stories in, you'll find that the enthusiasm gets sucked away really quick. Still, we were able to read all the stories and pound out some hard decisions on finalists in just over a month. And I am proud today to officially announce our finalists and our honorable mentions as we make the official post of the site. So please join me as I go and update the site. We're all doing it together. It's interactive. Woohoo! All excited. Don't pay attention to this password either. I know those circles mean something. This is what it looks like in the back door. I don't know what all your other sites look like. This is our back, the behind the scenes thing right here. And we got this little post thing right here. Bam! And luckily I'd already played with it a little bit today. So it's right there. And here's what it looks like rough. And then I'm going to push this button right there, publish. And it's done, for better or worse. Jason, I hope you checked it over first. But then like I said, this is what it looks like on the site. This is what our site, the picture's not coming up for some reason. But this is Escape into Life, the site's basically, here's the home page. And as you can see, since I just posted, it's the top post on the site. And like I said, Escape into Life is not just a literature site. It's dedicated first to arts and photography. So there's all sorts of crazy photography and artwork on this site. So we're hoping to, like I said, create a whole, capture the whole culture. We don't want to just be fiction poetry people. We want, like I said, we want the photographers to read the fiction, the artists to read the poetry, and everybody to get inspired by everybody, because that's what we're all here for, right? To be inspired and to be moved, hopefully. So to close it off for us, this is all to say that to be a successful online journal, to convince writers to submit their stories to your online journal when everyone wants to be in the Paris Review or Esquire is not an overnight situation. It's a hard landscape that is constantly evolving, and that's where good networking, such as events at AWP, can help you lay the groundwork for success. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you come talk to us afterwards, and I think we're about ready for some questions if you have any questions.